Well, hello everybody, good evening. I hope you had a great Sunday. We've got our second look at the one-day special. My goodness, were we busy. The inks absolutely flew. We will get to those a bit later on. So 2Js, this is the first time we've ever brought you 2Js as a one-day special, and they have not let us down. Before we do anything else, got to tell you that it is still part of our Family Favourites event, so that finishes tomorrow at 6 p.m. Our giveaway for this hour, a vintage demo kit. Lots going on there, actually, chock-a-block. So you get a bit of everything. Now, to be in line to win, as most of you will already be aware, but just for the benefit of anyone new, if you make any purchase during the live show within the first 15 minutes, your name goes into a hat and it could be you walking away with that prize. So fingers crossed, we will be announcing a winner at 10 to, well, just after 10 to 9. So do make sure to continue watching. Okay, so let's have a look at the one-day special. Now, you've got two options with the one-day special. What I would suggest, it was busy earlier on, just hold back a few moments. Let us go through the two options, because then we have a further option that might appeal that encapsulates the whole collection. Okay, so just having a little look at our first option here, and there's a lot going on. You've got some beautiful stamps. You've got the luggage stamps in there. We've got the frames. One thing, and I know John will be hopefully showing this in demonstration, if we have a look at the postcard stamp, this is a real innovation, because I've seen postcard stamps before, but you've kind of got a set stamp. This is a modular stamp in the sense that you've got your initial postcard frame, but then you decide whether you want to add the penny black stamp in there, the little francs or postage franc, all those little elements, so you can kind of mix and match. It is a really nice set. What I'll do, I'll try and find, I wanted to see if there was a little postcard I could show you. Here we go. So this is what I mean by the fact that we can create our own bespoke postcards. Isn't that lovely? A lot going on though here. I said we have got the frames, so how about for your mixed media, using those beautiful frames like florals? Or how about the, oh, this is nice. This is nice. The luggage travel theme, and we have got, actually, when I say the complete collection, if you wait and see the next option, you'll see how well the luggage would work with that travel theme. Or what about something like this? This is very nice. Okay, so that's your first option, and then we've got the second option for you. So with each option, whichever you go for, you'll be saving £4. It's £23.98 your price. Oh, I like this. You've got the lighthouse with all the elements. You've got the boat, I say the boat, the ship. Then you've got the travel, the little travel elements in there, sort of snapshot scenes, and the world stamp, which I absolutely adore. World stamp is, and these are all stamped out, so what you're seeing here is the size of the stamps that you are getting. That world stamp is absolutely exquisite. Look at this though, with the boats, what you can go on and achieve. That is a full armada. Or how about something like that? Okay, I like this. I like this a lot. We've got the world map in there, I have, the team is saying, bye Hayley, by the way, bye Hayley, see you next week. I have got the whole world in my hand. Or what about this? And if you do want to add a bit of colour, ba-ba. Okay, so I'm going to pop those down. That is your second option. Here's the thing, £4 saving here, £4 saving here. If you go for the complete collection, you will get that £8 saving already factored into the price. You will save a further £6, and you get the stencil in the mix as well. Oh, that's good. £14 saving. That is a phenomenal stencil too. I really like that stencil. So you kind of get a sense of the travel theme. Now, with the complete collection, 30% of the stock has gone. Just showing you one of the examples using that stencil and how well it plays with that world map. Okay, so let's think about this. $49.95 is your price, but have a look at that flexi price. £24.98. Considering it's only £1 more than what you would pay for just one of the options, do understand though it's a flexi payment, so that's your first payment, and then in 4 weeks' time you pay your remaining £24.98. But you're getting maximum value, and today in real terms, what you are paying would be only £1 more. And we send everything out to you, that complete collection. It's a popular option. A lot of you are going for that complete collection. 591270, your item number. We have to talk inks. Come over here. Sold out in the launch hour. You got to consider it's Sunday. And John, to his credit, and the whole team, they worked very, very hard to try and get some more on extended delivery. Now, this is your Seth Apter Pigment Ink Mega Bundle. You have got 20 colours in total. They are absolutely incredible. They really are. And Seth is such an amazing crafter and artist, really. So what he's bringing you, he's just giving you inks that are so versatile. The punch of colour coming through, that versatility in being able to use them. The only way, I mean, I'm showing you examples all using the inks. I mean, we've gone to something very, very traditional, jump to something that's quite modern. Again here, and they will go, now look, this is inks onto metal as well, just showing you that's onto metal. So it will work on wood, it'll work on glass, it'll work on metal, it'll work on canvas, it'll work on paper, canvas, all those. So with these, what I would suggest is see John working with the inks. You're going to fall in love with them. They are back on extended delivery. 6th of July, you don't have to wait that long. So, okay, a little bit of a wait, but they'll be dispatched, what is it, next Monday? Yeah, okay, that's all right. So, but effectively a week tomorrow, and there is a freedom price on there as well for the complete the mega bundle. 58.46 your price. You are saving 16.49. John will be showcasing these in just a moment, so we're going to jump straight to our first demonstration. You're going to like this. Here we go.
In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use the beautiful new Lighthouse stamp from the 2J Stamp Company onto fabric, so that you could put it into this sort of embroidery hoop and sort of decorate around it. I'm going to show you how we actually make this panel and how easy this is to do. So to start with, I'm just going to bring in one of the Crafts 2 ink blending mats. These are resistant to solvents, which actually makes it really, really good when you're using the iZink pigment inks. And here I've got a piece of calico. This is just really thin, really cheap, natural calico. I found this takes the colour beautifully and looks really nice when it's actually in the frame. So all we need to do to start with is to stamp the image. So I'm going to bring in my stamp press, take my fabric and lay it in, and just put the magnets on as I would do normally, as if this was paper. So I'm treating it as if it was paper. The only preparation that I've actually done beforehand with this is to give it a good iron to make sure it's nice and flat. So I'm going to take my stamp and just lay it in the middle. Because we're going to frame it, it doesn't actually matter where it goes. Pick it up on the lid. I'm going to ink this and stamp this. Now, there is no intention of this to be washed, so it doesn't really matter which ink you're using. You don't need to use a fabric ink. I'm using Memento, as I found that gives me a really nice crisp image when I'm actually colouring over the top. So I'm just going to stamp that as normal, and make sure when you're going onto fabric, as with anything really, that you're pressing everywhere on the stamp to make sure that it connects properly. And it's really important, if you haven't got a stamp press for this, make sure you've got something like the Crafts 2 stamping foam mat, or a piece of foam down. You're going onto fabric and it will slip and slide. It needs that little bit of foam in it, which of course the press to impress has got in. So you can see there I've got a beautifully crisp image, all stamped through with no problems. So we'll slide that out of the stamp press and we'll pop that to one side. And now we're going to get started. So the first thing I need to do is to just dampen the fabric a little bit. So I'm going to take one of the little misters. So this is a Crafts 2 little mini mister. Perfect for giving a really fine mist over the top, because I don't want it soaking, but I just want it to be a little bit wet so the colours will run slightly. So I'm going to actually start now with the Lighthouse. I'm going to start at the top. So to do that, I'm going to take the grey colour, which is in the blue selection. And these are the iZink pigment inks. These are a beautiful, viscous, pure pigment colour. And these are actually permanent on any surface. So that's fabric, glass, paper, card, concrete, acetate. So useful. But the amazing thing is with them, they're actually water soluble when they're wet. So it means that I can use a water brush and I can actually add a little bit of water to this colour. So I'm adding a little bit of water to the colour. I'll bring this in a little bit more so you can see it. So I've laid down using the brush that's in the set. So this is the fantastic thing. They've got this it's like a nail varnish thing with a brush. So you can apply them directly from the brush, or you can apply the colour down, making sure you don't waste any. And I can take water and I can add water to this, which gives me tones and shades. And that's while it's wet. Once it's actually dry, water won't move it. So all I'm going to do is just go over the top with this colour mixed with the water of the lighthouse. You see that? I'm going to go over the lighthouse, and I like this sort of bluey grey colour. So what I'm going to do is take the bluey grey colour and just add a little bit in along the waves. I'm not being careful. I'm not massively following the actual colours or the design on the stamp. I'm just going through and putting a little wash on of that colour. So we go through like that, and where I'm doing is just literally where it's the lightest. So next I want to actually put some rocks in. So I'm going to take some of the brown colour, which is the marron or chestnut. I'm going to take a little bit of the brown. I'm going to take a little bit of the orange, and this is actually called orange, which is nice burnt orange. I think Seth named this. These colours were designed by Seth Apter. So you've got some beautiful shades in here, some bright jewel tones and some really nice soft colours. And I'm just going to mix those together a little bit in the centre so that I get a little bit of a warmer brown. And again, I'm going to go over and I'm just going to paint the rocks. So all I'm doing is putting a base colour down. If you find your colours don't flow, take a little bit of water out from your water brush and put a little bit of water in, and they'll flow a lot easier. So all I'm doing here, taking a little bit of those two orangey brown colours, there we go, and just putting in the basis of the rocks. Now I'm going to take a little bit of black, and again this is just black. I think Seth's called it After Dark. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black. See how easy they are to use. You're not squeezing out things all the time. I'm going to add some of that black in to this colour to give us a darker brown. And all I'm going to do now is take this and go along the sort of the tops of the rocks. So I'm effectively colouring as I would be if this was paper. But we know that these inks will work permanently and stick onto the fabric beautifully. So I'm just going to go around, there we go, around the edge, colour that in so that I've got a nice sort of shaded sort of headland or rocks. So next we're going to put some of the sea in. So I'm going to take here, this is the Celestial Blue, which is sort of like a dark intense blue colour. So I'm going to take some of that and lay some of that down. And I'm going to take the volubilis, which I love the name of this. It's a French flower. It's actually called ultramarine in English, but the French, I just love the volubilis name. So again, I'm going to put some of that down, which is easy to mix the colours. And again, a little bit of water on my water brush. Take the blue, and I'm just going to take the blue around the tops of the waves and here where the sea is out there. So take the blue, there we go, put that on. I'm then going to go in with a bit of the volubilis, so the lighter, more ultramarine blue, and I'm going to fill in almost any gaps. So this is exactly the same, as I said, that you would be doing if you were using normal colours, using pencil crayons or your alcohol markers or anything like that. I'm just colouring it in. Now just take that shade, and we can see there we're getting the sea sort of moving. Oops, I missed some rocks there. So let's pick some of those up and just do that. And if your inks do start to go a little bit, you can adjust that little bit more water. So let's just darken that piece in there. A little bit more blue. That's why I love using a water brush, because I don't have to have different brushes for different colours or wash them in between, because you don't want to do is to create lots and lots of water on this. You don't want it very, very wet. You just want that little bit of dampness just to help it work. Okay, so we've got our main base. Now this to me is when we bring the magic in this, because you've got the white pigment ink. So this is pure white. I think it's called Avalanche. So I'm going to lay down some of the white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water brush, and for this section I would use the small tipped water brush. They come in 3 sizes, small, medium and large, and I would use the small one. And I'm just putting some highlights on the left hand side of the lighthouse that we can see there. Where you've got these bands across, I'm going to colour those in. So it's really simple. I'm going to put a little window in there. We're going to put the little door in there. Doesn't matter if they don't exist in the stamp, we do what we like to do. And then I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to the headland. So I'm just going in roughly with the white, and a little bit here where the waves will be against the shore. Again, a little bit here over the top, a little bit of highlight. And then all I'm going to do is just use little dots and strokes and put almost like the crests of the waves in. So I'm picking up the ink with my water brush and I'm just popping those in. Really simple, following the lines that are on the stamp. Anything you think is too heavy, just wash it out using your water brush. And that's why we make it just a little bit damp, the fabric. So a little bit there, a little bit there. And I could carry on with this for absolute hours. I'm then going to take a little bit more of the volubilis, and you'd keep going with this until you are happy with the state of the sea. So all I'm going to do now is add in some little highlights of the blue, and you'll see just how they shade them in will just work really well and give us that beautiful sea look. So there we go. Let's put a little bit more in. So you would keep working on that until you're happy with it, but I actually love that sort of basic look of it there. Okay, so next we need to do the sky. So don't worry there where I've put my thumbprint in and marked it. I always get inky, I can never keep clean. What I'm going to do now is take the mister again, and I want to really soak that sky. I'm going to take the bluey colour that wash I've got, a little bit of grey, mix them together until I've got a real washy colour, and all I'm going to do is paint that in roughly, picking up my colour each time. So we just literally paint that in. So I've got the sky, and I'm not being solid, I'm leaving it in patches and I'm letting the brush do its work. A little bit of white will give us a beautiful cloud. And if we pick up a little bit of the grey, I've got a little bit of black in this as well, and just put a little bit of that just on the top of where those clouds are. There we go. Take the water brush and just wash that out a little bit. We've then got an almost stormy sky. Really simple. Anywhere you've missed, anywhere you can put colour back in. So I sort of over misted that lighthouse a little bit. So we'll just put him in. A little bit missing there. We'll have the blue colour coming into the scene. Anywhere you want, just keep adding colour in until you're happy with the sky. And this is the great thing, is these mix beautifully. And the stamped image gives you all the detail that you need to do it. So there we have quite a simple scene of a lighthouse worked through. Obviously this is wet. When it dries it will crisp up, but all I want to do now is put a little bit of the light in. So I'm going to take this one, which is Mimosa, which is a bright yellow, and I just want the tiniest little bit of this, and then again water, mix it together, and I'm just going to put out a section of light. Pull it from the lighthouse, just like that. There'll be a little bit going out the back as well, and we just pick up a little bit of white just to highlight that yellow going off into sea. And there we have a really simple, beautiful painted panel, and once dry you can frame it like I have here, and the colours will become more intense, the colour will soak in. You can frame it as I've done here using an embroidery hoop, and I've even coloured the embroidery hoop, this was a wooden one, using the grey colour, so the thunder cloud, so that it matches exactly with the picture, and stuck a few little shells and things on.
Are you kidding? Look, and so I've got the piece that John was just working on. Where I think these inks absolutely excel is the fact that they can go on so many different surfaces. So John was saying he actually used them on the embroidery hoop, he used it on the canvas, they'll go onto metal, they'll go onto glass, they'll go onto pretty much anything really. So have a look. I'm sure if they go into glass, then you can use them on a mirror if you wanted, ceramic. So have a little go with these, and of course on paper as well. You can go for the mega bundle. It has sold out. It sold out in 1 hour, and there was a lot of stock. So that gives you a real indication of just how special these are. Developed with Seth Apter and Izink in there, and it's a really special collection. So when we saw John using these, but the only way I would say to really appreciate how good they are is when you start using them. We have to go to the next demonstration. What we're going to do this hour, we've got a lot of demonstrations to show you, and I think that's the best way to showcase everything. So I'm going to hand back to John, and we're going to have a look now at our one-day special.
To start with, I've stamped the ship in sail, or the ship at sea stamp from 2Js, onto a piece of acetate using embossing ink. I've used the Izink embossing ink, and I've used their detailed black powder just to heat set it to give me a definite finished image. But what we're going to do is we're going to colour this from behind. So I'm going to bring in my ink mats to protect my surface, and I've turned it upside down, so I'm now working on the back. And what I'm going to do to start with, again, I'm going to take the grey colour, which is called Thunder Cloud. So I'm going to take a little bit of the grey. Let's bring my little palette in. This little palette is a mini ink blending mat that comes with the Crafts 2 kit. You get the A4 one and this little one, which is great to use as a palette. So I'm just going to lay that down. I'm then going to take some of the white, and I'm going to lay that down next to it so that I've got those two colours, and that allows me to lighten or darken it. And this time I'm going to take my water brush, and this is why I like using the Crafts 2 water brushes. If I don't squeeze too hard, the valve in there stops water flowing too much. So if I just dry off the end, it's like I've got a dry washable brush. So I'm just going to blend those two colours together and give me a really nice light grey shade. And all I'm going to do is go in direct, so I'm adding no water to the colour at all. And I'm just going to colour in all of the sails using the white. And you have to remember that whatever colour you're using first is the colour that will be shown through on the back. So any highlights that you want to do have to be done before you work in with the other colours. So you may want to stamp out one of these and have it working next to you in the right way around, so that you've got a reference guide, because you're painting backwards from behind. I know this stamp quite well now, so I don't actually need that, but I would suggest that you may find that's useful. So I'm just going to go through and finish off doing all of these. So I'm just going over with this colour I've mixed in the middle, bringing in each time a little bit more grey or a little bit more white, depending on what I need. And you may think you're doing quite a thin coating, and I mean, it is fantastic to have the ability to paint onto acetate. That's what I absolutely love about these inks. But you may think, oh well, you know, the coating's probably a little bit thin. But don't worry about that, because we're going to put a background onto it anyway. So if I turn that over, hopefully you can see there where I've got the ships, the sort of the sails showing up a little bit lighter. So what I want to do next is to just colour in the ship. So I'm going to take some of the roast chestnut, or the marron, if you want to do in French, and I want to darken this slightly. So I'm going to take a little bit of black, but this time I'm going to use just a little touch. That's what's so useful about the bottles being like this. I'm not even just trying to squeeze a little bit out. I can just take out as much as I want, and it just lets me darken that shade. You can get so many shades with it. And I'm going to just put in this stripe here where it's lighter. So I'm going to put that stripe in there and pick up some more, and I'm just going to roughly go over the rest of the ship so that anything that's seen through shows in the brown. Now I'm going to put a little bit around this rigging and a little bit in between each sail. I'm not being precise and I'm not being careful. I'm just trying to add a little bit of colour in. So don't worry, this is not something for those people who've got amazing painting skills. Anyone can do this. I'm just almost blobbing colour on. That's why it's so good to be able to colour from behind and do it on acetate, because for the next sort of 10 minutes or so, if there's something you don't like, you will be able to wipe it off. If I turn that over, you can see now how it works. I've got the brown against the lighter sails. So what we want to do now is put in a little bit of the sea. So to start with, I just want to get some water flowing in my brush and take that brown colour off and dry out my brush slightly. I'm going to pick up the white I've got left and I'm going to dot that on roughly. So I'm just putting dots on. That's all I'm doing in a few places. There we go. I'm going to take a little bit of the darker blue. So this one is the celestial blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of that. You can tell which my favourite colours are. I think I've gone through about 2/3 of this one. And I'm going to take a little bit of the light blue, which is called stratosphere, or in French again, blue clair. So we've got that. And I'm going to do exactly the same technique again. I'm going to pick up the colour and I'm going to dot it in. And I've allowed some white to stay on my brush so that I get that. Pick up a little bit of the lighter blue and we just dot that in. And what I'm doing with the lighter blue, I'm going underneath. I'm going to mix them all together just so that I've got, there we go. When I turn it over, the perfect sea. I can see the crashing waves. I can see all those pieces. Hopefully that's coming through and you can see there. So what I want to do now is to make the background. So I'm going to take another piece of acetate that's been cut to size. So I'm just going to take a normal A4 sheet. What you would do is you do a full A4 sheet and you'll do one piece with the ship on and one piece for the background. And this time I'm going to take the colours direct. So this is the volubilis, and all I'm doing is working stripes over the back using the brush that's in the ink. So I'm putting it on definitely and defined, and what this will do is this gives me a lot more solid colour than when I use a water brush or a normal brush. I'm going to take just a little bit of the celestial blue and add some darker shades in. But what I'm doing is the darker shades for the celestial blue are more at the top because the sky gets lighter as it gets down, or that's my impression anyway. So I'm going to take some more of that, and I'm only going to come about 1/3 of the way down with this celestial blue. I'm then going to get a little bit of the grey, which is the thundercloud, and I'm going to add some little bits of the thundercloud in again at the top. So I'm just mixing the blues here, a little bit in, but again when I get down to the bottom I'm being lighter with it. And then finally going to go in with the lightest blue, which is the stratosphere, and I'm just going to almost fill gaps. I'm putting a lot more of the stratosphere in at the bottom. So really simple. There we go. So what we need to do next now is just merge these slightly. So what I would do is take my wash brush. So this is another Crafts 2 brush, and this is another one of the water brush, and these come in 3 sizes again, small, medium and large. I think I've grabbed the medium here, but I would probably use the large. And I'm just going to get some water out, put some drops of water on flowing, and I'm just going to flick my brush across, going top to bottom. Really simple. And what we would do is we would leave that to dry, or you can dry it. So I'm just going to bring in the heat gun. Anywhere there's too much water, if you add, while you're drying, a little bit of kitchen roll, it just messes up the sky that little bit more and takes any large patches of water off. So we're just going to give this a dry through. I'm using the lowest speed on my heat gun, because although I'm using heat resistant acetate, I don't want to overheat the acetate. I don't want this to buckle too much. So again, at home you would spend a little bit longer doing this and drying it, or you can just leave it on one side and it will dry in about 5 to 10 minutes naturally. But if you can see, the inks are sticking. The inks are, that's it, they're fixed. I've really got to scrub to take any off. So I'm going to take the last bits of water off there. Okay, and we're done. So now I'm simply going to turn that over. And you can see there, I've already started to get a really beautiful sky. And all I want to do is add a few clouds in. So I'm going to take some of the white. And I want some of the grey, the thunder cloud. Perfect name for this, really genuinely is. I know sometimes we think the names of colours really don't match what they do, but these are actually really spot on. I'm going to take my water brush and again clean it off, get any excess water off, pick up the white, and I'm just going to put some clouds in. And all I'm doing is putting blobs down, little blobs, and then I'm going to pull them out with my water brush. Take some of the grey, add some of the grey on, and it won't make a lot of sense at the moment, but it will do when it's all put together. So we've got a grey. I'm going to take a little bit of white, and I'm just going to finish off with a little bit of white and highlight in those clouds, a little bit of grey underneath, and so that I've got the sky showing with the clouds. And when I pop my ship over, I've got those clouds looking with the ship floating on top. So I would foam mount that over and to get it into the original card. So I'll show you that in a second. So we've got our background and we've got our ship. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've cut a piece of white card to 7 by 7, and I've put on the back some foam tape to mount this away, and I've used the press cut stitch dot dies to make myself a little porthole. So I'm just going to frame my ship in there. I'm going to stick that down, and I would take then my scissors. Now when I was cutting and putting the foam tape on, I made sure I put some at the top and the side so that the card doesn't dip. So we need to do that again because we're going to put another layer on. So again, I'm going to take some foam tape and I'm just going to once again trace around this circle. So if you've got a decent foam tape and you take the covering off, it will turn a corner beautifully. So we'll just take this right to the end. Don't have to get it exact. And again, to keep the depth going, I need to make sure that the top and the side are in the same area. So So I'm going to take what's left of the foam tape and put it along one side and along the top so that it's nicely balanced. And you just want to make sure that when these are revealed that you're not actually sticking that down to anything. We then take our background, and you can see now how it works through the porthole, so we can move it up and down until you find a place you're happy with, and then we trim that off. And then all I'm going to do is to stick this down onto my card blank. So I've got my card blank here. Now what I'm going to do to make sure it sticks properly, I'm going to take the excess off this corner. There's a little bit poking out there, which we don't want, so let's just trim that off. And I'm going to take another piece of foam tape. Now, if you remember, we've got 2 layers there and there. We've got 2 layers in the design, so I'm taking 1 layer, pop a second layer on, just to secure that corner, so that I don't actually have to glue down the acetate, as I don't like gluing down acetate. And we then simply, I've got this onto an 8x8 card blank, matted and layered with grey and with blue to pick up a little bit of the blue. And we just stick that on. And if I bring that up, hopefully you can see there, you've got the ship and you've actually seeing a background behind it. And it's so easy to do with no painting skills whatsoever. And you could simply add a sentiment onto that. Add a little sentiment block on or something like that. You could embellish this, you could put little bits of string around to make it look more like a porthole or little screws, but that's the basis of how we do that painting on it.
The stamps are incredible. Now, with the one-day special, I've got to be quick here because we're going to get back to our next demonstration. You've got 2 different options. So you've got this one-day special and then you've got this one-day special. But the reason why I'm just glossing over that is because we also have a complete collection, which is proving extremely popular. Now, with the complete collection, you still get the savings that you would have had with the one-day special. So £4 here and £4 here. That £8 savings already taken off the price. And then you get a further £6 on top of that, and you also get access to flexi payments, which means your first flexi payment is only £1 more than you would have paid for just one of the options. The sets are incredible. Now, this is 2J's first ever one-day special, and they haven't disappointed. They really have brought something that is extremely special. You are getting the stencil with the complete collection, so the only way you can get that is in part of the complete collection. You're getting the most beautiful character-filled stamps, snapshots of scenes, locations around the world. There is a travel theme embraced here. You're also getting postcards in the other set, so one option of the one-day special postcard in there that's modular. I mean, a lot going on. Say the best way to really see how good it is in demonstration. So we're going to go back to John. Now, we won't be able to fit in the full demonstration, but we're going to do our best to try and fit in as much as we can. So enjoy.
In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use the fabulous new 2J stamps to build this sort of collage background, which is perfect for using for things like your journal books or for cards, or make really good for men's cards. But the sort of collage backgrounds work so well. A few different pieces that I've done there. So to start with, I'm going to start with just making a simple card. And I've taken a piece of craft card. This has been cut to 5 by 7 inches, which is a nice standard size. It'll fit on a nice sort of 7.5, 5.5 inch card blank. And I'm going to add a piece of book paper. So I've taken a piece from an old book. This is actually a pack I bought, but you can get old books from a charity shop. And I'm just going to tear it freehand down one side to give me a strip. Now I'm going to adhere this for speed using spray glue. I would suggest using some form of dry glue like a spray glue, because what that will actually do is when we start to add ink and things like that, it won't bubble up and it won't have the water underneath. So I've stuck that down one side. I'm going to turn the card over and trim off the excess pieces. So we'll take those off. And that's our base piece started, but everything is still looking a little bit new. So what we want to do is to add a little bit of ink into the background. So I'm going to start with the Eyes Ink pigment inks. These are perfect for this. And I'm going to use the red, which is Raspberry Beret. I'm going to use the Roast Chestnut And I'm going to use the Improper Copper, which is one of the metallic colours. And it's fantastic that we can use metallics like this without having to resort to sort of mica powders and things like that. So all I'm going to do is open these up, and these come with a little brush on the end, which is absolutely perfect. If you don't put them in properly, what you'll see, if you don't seal it up, you'll see some bits do dry around the top, so be a little bit careful. But all I'm doing is using the brush, put some down onto my Crafts 2 ink blending mat. I'm putting red down first, then I'm going to put a little bit of brown down, again keeping to the same sort of idea, and then I'm simply going to spritz this. So I'm using one of the fine mist sprayers, and I'm just going to mist it so it's nice and wet. I'm going to take my piece and I'm just going to start picking up colour. And if you can see there, it really starts to age it and adds the colour on. You can keep moving it around until you've got some really nice bits of colour added onto there. Now, I normally don't use kitchen roll, but for this one, I'm going to use kitchen roll and clean up the excess, because what you do is you keep this kitchen roll that you have coloured, and it cuts the most perfect flowers. So you just screw it up, let it dry, use it a few times with different shades, and then when you unfold, you've got a beautiful marbled look. And what I want to do now is just give this a little bit of a quick dry. So I'm using the low speed on my heat gun just to take the edge off. And I'm using pigment ink because if you notice, this is brown card, so this is craft card. But by using pigment ink, it sits on the surface. And that's the great thing about pigment inks. Dye-based inks are translucent, so if I do this, they'll just darken that brown, whereas the pigment inks will actually sit on the top. So give that a little bit of a quick dry. Anywhere that's not particularly dry or has got a few pools, you can use a little bit of kitchen roll to take it off, but hopefully you can see there where the colour's sitting over the top. So now I'm going to repeat it using the Improper Copper. Give these a good shake. Don't worry about, there's no rolling or anything of that. You just give them a good shake and we get this beautiful copper colour. So all I'm going to do is put the copper down, and I'm going to give this a spritz, but I want to give this a really light spritz. So I don't want a lot of dilution in here. And we'll pick up some pieces of copper. And hopefully there we can see. Again, wipe down with your kitchen roll. And give that a quick blast with your heat gun, just to take any of the moisture out. But again, the copper is now sitting on top of there in waves, and once dry, you'll get a beautiful sheen from it and a really different look. So we'll just give that a dry. I think that's about 90% there. We'll take any excess off, and you can see there, we've hopefully got that beautiful shine coming through. So what we're going to do now is going to start to stamp and add and stencil over the top of this. So I'm going to bring in the stencil from the 2J's range, which is a beautiful compass and sort of waves. And these designs here were designed to be waves or to be wind. They were designed to work in lots of different ways. And I'm using, again, Eyes Ink dye ink this time because I want that translucent look. So I'm using walnut, and I'm just going to go in from the centre and put the walnut in. So I'm going along the centre pieces on this. So because I'm using the pigments, the dye-based ink, I'll be able to see through, so I'll be able to see the text through. So I'm just going to swap colours and go with the T, which is more of a sort of a yellowy brown colour. And that has a really nice sort of vintage look. So I'm doing that in the outskirts. So I'm doing that around the outer edges and coming into the centre. And I would suggest that you look after your stencil a little bit better than I have. I've used this so much, I've got all sorts of things on here, but it doesn't affect the use of it. If I take that off, you'll be able to see there how I've got it fading across. So I've got that in that corner. And I'm going to take one of the wind or the waves and pop that in this corner where I've got less ink. And again, I'm going to go in first this time with the lighter colour, just to give me a base. And then I'm going to come in with the darker shade, and I'm just going to add little bits on to shade it across. And again, then we're starting to build up that collage look. So we'll move those out of the way, and I'm now going to start with some of the stamps. So I'm going to be doing stamping without a stamp platform on this one. So I'm going to be using my blocks, my Crafts 2 acrylic blocks. I brought in one of the stamping foam panels, as this makes it so much easier, because clear stamps give you a better impression into foam than they do onto a flat surface. This is a tool that I thought I wouldn't use again once I'd got my stamping platform, but I found subsequently that I use it all the time. So I've taken the world map stamp here, and to give me some definition against this, I'm going to use black, and I'm going to use VersaFine. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp as I would do normally, so give it a really good inking. And I'm going to come across actually, so I'm not going to do the full thing, I'm going to come across and give a good impression here, so as if the world map is coming across the page. And then if you notice, some of the design has come onto my mat, which means I've lost some ink, so I can actually then use this stamp to add a little bit more texture and pattern into the background. So I'm creating that already. So I'm going to move that one out. I'm then going to grab a smaller block, and I'm going to flick to my postcard set, which is the postcard builder, and I'm going to use the Eiffel Tower. And again, I'm going to ink that, and I want to put an element pretty much central, so I'm going to go just there, and we'll give that a good impression. So we're starting to build up this collage look and this area pointing into the middle. So I'm going to actually leave that on. I'm going to ink my stamp, take some excess ink off on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to have a couple of ghost stamps coming off to one side. I'm then going to take the little words, which is a little bit from the postcard set again, which is the Paris. So I'm going to add that into the centerpiece there, but I'm going to add a few more around, just randomly stamping. So I'm just trying to build this little collage look. So ink it and stamp around so that there is sort of text over text. And I'm going to take one of the postcard carte postals. So I'm just going to pick that one up, and again I'm going to ink that, and I'm keeping around this central area. So I'm going to pop that just there. So I've got that carte postal, and I'm going to ink that again and go up here. And again, any excess ink, use it to cross over to create that little bit of extra texture in it and go off the page. And then I'm going to add a few of the stamps. So in this set, there's the little sort of penny black stamp. So I'm going to ink that in black, and we're keeping around this area. I'm going to stamp that in. So again, it's fading into the background, and we'll have a few more going off the page. We'll pop one up here. Okay, perfect. I'll move that away. And then I'm going to just use the postal stamps. So you've got two of these, which are like the stamps that you would get. And these again are based in France. So these are French for cities. So I'm going to stamp off onto my scrap and then put some of these around. And it's just a case now of building up these areas, going off the page with that one, and going, we've got the second one, and we'll do the same again. I'm going to put a definitive there. So we've got that Leon, and again, do some more off the page and off the edges. And it just keeps that little edge going. And again, there are more stamps in the set that you can be using. There's little tickets and things like that, but all we're trying to do is to build a background. So we're just trying to build one of those sort of background looks that we can use on there. So I've built up my background piece. You can see there I've got all of that detail in. So that would be perfect to actually now start to add something on the top too, but it's still a little bit raw around the edges. So what I want to do is to just take this onto my ink blending mat, and I'm going to take the two colours I used before, the tea and the walnut. I'm going to start with the tea, and I'm going to age up the edges. So very roughly, I'm going to go around and create some definition, going all the way onto the page so that this yellowy colour is coming through. Again, it will show up a lot less, it'll just darken on the craft card, but it works really well on the book page that we've done. So again, just go around all the edges, and if you want to, you can take some and darken or soften sort of areas of it. And then I'm going to move on to using the walnut. And to do this, if I do the same technique, I'm going to get a lot on there. So I'm going to take the walnut and I'm just going to flick the finger dauber around the edge, going all the way around, just so that it gives me a darker line at the edge. You can see here, I can colour some into that corner, but again, just take it along the edge, really simply. And all it does is it just darkens up that edge. If you want to go a little bit darker on a particular edge, put the paper down and push the ink on like we would do normally. I love doing this on the edge of the book paper because it sort of starts it to curl and things, which works really, really well. And then finally, all we want to do is to highlight some of the areas to make it pop. So I'm going to come in with some of the white Eyes Ink pigment ink. This is a perfect highlighter. So I'll bring my little palette in and I'm just going to lay down a few lines of the white. So I've got a nice little white area to pick up. I'm going to take my water brush and just take my kitchen roll and make sure that the water brush is clean, but also that it's relatively dry. And I wouldn't use a normal brush, I would use a water brush because it waters it down slightly. And I'm going to pick up some of the colour and I'm just going to put some highlights in. So I'm going to put some highlights in here around the edge of the map. I'm going to put a highlight in underneath the Eiffel Tower and that there. Okay, I'm going to go around the outside of part of this. If you wipe any excess off, you can blend it out. And then just literally follow some of the lines. With the Eiffel Tower, I'm going to put it to the right hand side and pull the colour out, just so that we can get a little bit of definition on that there.
Well, I'm sorry we had to cut that short, but what incredible demonstrations from John. John will be live tomorrow at 8, 12 and 4 for our one-day special, and I really hope you can join him. So we got to announce our winner from our Family Favourites event. I can tell you our winner is Michelle Foster. Michelle, congratulations. You will be winning all of these goodies. They'll be winging their way to you. So congratulations to Michelle. We are going to have another opportunity to win a prize courtesy of our Family Favourites event, and not long left on the event. It finishes tomorrow at 6 p.m. So we've got a 7-day saver show. The new 7-day savers were launched today, this morning at 8 a.m. We've got a whole hour with 7-day savers, and we're going to give you a chance to win a Family Favourites prize as well. So I really hope you can join me for the next hour. It is chock-a-block full of absolute bargains. We are going to have a giggle in the next hour as well, so do make sure to tune in. So as I say, with the one-day special, the inks were incredibly busy, as was the one-day special. Inks are on extended delivery. Once that extended delivery goes, I don't know how much more stock we can get. Actually, we genuinely don't know, but I wouldn't leave it to chance. If you do want to go for those inks, and I know they have been popular, then do take a look at those. You can get ahead as well. You can see everything on our website. If you do want to watch the launch hour, and I thoroughly suggest, the launch hour was fantastic. So John was live with Hayley. So if you did want to see the launch hour, the one-day special, maybe you've purchased it this hour and you just want to see a few more techniques, you can do that two ways. You can either go onto our website, hochanda.com, or you can use the Hochanda app. Personally, I always use the app these days. It's so simple. So if you do have a smartphone or a tablet. It doesn't matter if it's on the Apple platform or Android. Just go to wherever you get your apps and then look for the Hochanda. Just type in Hochanda in your App Store and you'll be able to find us. Thank you so much for keeping us company this hour. As I say, the next hour, it's going to be our 7-day savers and there are bargains to be had. I hope you're going to keep me company. See you in a moment.